March 1945, Western Germany framed expectations of a concluding campaign. Allied leaders anticipated orderly advances, stabilized fronts, and predictable coordination. After years of attrition, planners believed control would dominate, assuming broken enemy forces required caution rather than relentless speed alone. Victory seemed inevitable across collapsing Reich territories. Command structures emphasized discipline, synchronization, and methodical progress toward surrender. Everywhere daily expected. Senior commanders prepared for management challenges. Supply regulation, boundary alignment, and political considerations accompanying occupation planning across Europe after defeat. Maps displayed neat phase lines and objectives, reinforcing beliefs that headquarters oversight could comfortably guide concluding operations with confidence. Intact. Communication systems appeared sufficient on paper. Radio schedules, reports, and liaison channels promised coherence during rapid but controlled final movements. Experience suggested caution remained prudent. Memories of counterattacks, supply crises, and weather delays lingered within institutional memory of command staffs. Therefore, doctrine favored synchronization, preventing units from racing ahead beyond support coverage while maintaining clear authority. Relationships everywhere across fronts. Order and control promised efficiency, reducing uncertainty during transitions from combat toward governance across liberated regions and cities awaiting administration. Such assumptions underestimated personalities capable of redefining operational reality through momentum when given latitude, initiative, and freedom from constraints imposed. Within this atmosphere, Patton prepared to challenge expectations, valuing motion over paperwork, speed over hesitation, and presence over distance always. While peers planned endings, he anticipated opportunity. Believing enemies collapse fastest under pressure, applied continuously, without pause or delay thereafter. Expectations of order shaped headquarters behavior, encouraging reliance upon scheduled reports and confirmations before adjustments were authorized formally through channels. This framework assumed time remained available, an assumption increasingly fragile. Amid accelerating advances, enemy disintegration, and opportunities appearing unexpectedly forward. German resistance seemed fragmented, reinforcing confidence that structure would manage final movements without dramatic surprises or dangerous reversals emerging suddenly. Yet fragmentation also created gaps, spaces where speed could decide outcomes before commands responded coherently or defenses reformed elsewhere nearby. Planners expected gradual closure, believing coordination prevented accidents and friendly confusion during crowded corridors of advance toward central Germany itself. This belief overlooked initiative advantages, where rapid exploitation forestalled enemy recovery before new orders could restore cohesion within shattered formations. Control appealed politically, assuring allies that operations remained predictable, accountable, and measured, despite rapid movement toward capitulation. And occupation duties. Such reassurance mattered within coalitions, balancing military urgency with diplomacy across diverse national interests. Expectation sensitivities and post-war visions emerging. Against this backdrop, Patton philosophy appeared disruptive, challenging comforting narratives about manageable endings. Controlled tempo and centralized authority structures prevailing. However, disruption often precedes clarity, especially during collapsing systems where speed, initiative, and judgment determine final outcomes more than procedure. Section opens with confidence, a belief that wars end neatly through order, planning, coordination, and methodical execution from above alone. That belief soon confronted motion, as Patton prepared to outrun expectations, reshaping campaign dynamics before headquarters could fully comprehend changes. Headquarters depended on scheduled reports, trusting radio traffic summaries would accurately track Third Army movements during rapidly changing final operations. That trust faltered as Patton advanced faster than transmission cycles, rendering positions obsolete before clerks finished plotting coordinates daily routinely. Situation maps lagged reality, arrows representing yesterday while armored columns surged onward across bridges, towns, and road junctions relentlessly. Forward. By the time updates arrived, Third Army had already crossed new rivers, seized crossings, and altered axes beyond expectations again. Communications infrastructure strained under distance. Relays, stretched supply lines could not keep pace with maneuver tempo during relentless advances forward. Signal units improvised continuously, yet velocity defeated even creativity, leaving commanders uncertain about friendly dispositions across widening fronts nightly everywhere. Bradley's staff noticed anomalies. Gaps between reported and observed realities widening with each passing hour amid accelerating operations everywhere constantly. Phones rang unanswered. Liaison officers chased rumors while certainty dissolved inside. Command tents across multiple headquarters areas daily repeatedly nearby. Reports arriving hours late created illusion of control, masking the fact Third Army operated far beyond plotted lines already dramatically. This lag fostered anxiety, because planning assumptions depended upon positions that no longer existed within headquarters systems routinely now obsolete. Third Army columns exploited momentum, bypassing resistance nodes faster than headquarters could authorize deviations through fragmented regions daily repeatedly forward. Authorization became irrelevant, as initiative replaced permission amid collapsing enemy command structures across vast distances during final weeks of war. Headquarters attempted reconciliation, cross-checking air reconnaissance prisoner reports, and road logs continuously under pressure from advancing formations everywhere simultaneously. Each source contradicted others. Revealing speed distorted every measurement of progress within operational systems designed for slower wars earlier eras. The faster Patton moved, the less visibility headquarters possessed over unfolding actions across dynamic fronts amid collapsing resistance daily now. Ironically, success amplified uncertainty, because victory arrived before comprehension could form within traditional reporting frameworks, built for caution not velocity. Bradley reportedly questioned map accuracy repeatedly, confronting symbols that no longer represented reality during briefings filled with confusion, uncertainty, disbelief. Each adjustment lagged behind events, forcing acceptance that control was slipping forward beyond headquarters reach amid accelerating breakthroughs daily everywhere. Losing the Third Army did not mean defeat, it meant Doctrine failing against speed under conditions of collapse opportunity momentum. Headquarters confronted a new reality, where movement dictated understanding rather than reports within rapidly changing theaters nearing conclusion everywhere finally. Patton's distance from headquarters grew measurable in hours rather than miles, reflecting tempo shifts unseen previously within modern armies ever. Temporal gaps symbolized command displacement, authority migrating toward the front under pressure of momentum, opportunity, initiative, risk, speed alone. As reports failed, intuition replaced paperwork, guiding decisions already executed far ahead by commanders trusting momentum, enemy collapse signals. Nearby. Headquarters had not lost control accidentally. It had been outrun deliberately by velocity, audacity, initiative, judgment, timing, risk, acceptance embodied. Inside Bradley's headquarters, briefings unfolded with practiced calm, until position overlays contradicted courier notes arriving moments earlier suddenly today during afternoon briefings. The discrepancy widened hourly, forcing commanders to question maps, procedures, and assumptions underpinning their confidence during late briefings. Bradley leaned closer to the table, tracing lines that suggested Third Army far beyond authorized boundaries already there on the map itself. Staff exchanged glances, unsure whether errors lay within symbols or unprecedented movement unfolding outside tents that night, quickly across sectors nearby unexpectedly. A stunned question surfaced repeatedly. "He's where?" Echoing disbelief as coordinates defied planning logic across the room today during tense briefings. Hours. Bradley demanded verification, requesting air reconnaissance prisoner statements and traffic reports simultaneously without delay today now across commands. Each confirmation worsened matters because sightings placed Patton astonishingly deep beyond friendly lines already there again today. Unexpectedly, despite guidance issued earlier, the map looked broken. Symbols failing to capture velocity, intent, and audacity, driving advances across central Germany now during collapsing defenses there. Bradley recognized opportunity and danger. Speed promised collapse, yet risked isolation beyond support lines and fuel coverage, quickly across widened fronts now. His disbelief mixed admiration, acknowledging brilliance while fearing consequences uncontrolled momentum could invite during final operations now there for Allied commands today. Staff officers recalculated boundaries, erasing pencil marks as reality advanced faster than hands could update them today anywhere. During frantic briefings moments, the broken map symbolized transition, from plan control toward emergent command driven forward by speed alone, now suddenly across entire theater today. Bradley asked again quietly, "He's where?" Accepting answers he could not verify from staff reports, now arriving late within command tents nearby. Silence followed briefly, punctuated by radios crackling with news already outdated from forward units today across multiple sectors during rapid advances now. The map demanded faith adjustments, accepting that Patton operated beyond neat abstractions of doctrine charts today. Everywhere now amid collapsing resistance nearby, Bradley adapted mentally, shifting focus from restraint toward enabling momentum responsibly across command decisions, now during final operations despite lingering doubts today. Broken maps forced trust. Commanders relied on outcomes rather than predicted positions shown earlier now today unexpectedly alone during final weeks then. This inversion rewarded initiative, validating speed as a decisive weapon during collapsing fronts everywhere across Germany now late of the war there. Bradley's disbelief became acceptance, recognizing Patton as a phenomenon reshaping campaigns now today across Western Europe entirely again beyond expectations entirely now. The map no longer led. It followed events driven by speed and audacity, forward leadership decisions alone daily during March operations there. Within confusion lay clarity, momentum dictated truth more reliably than paperwork during final drives, now across fronts everywhere as resistance collapsed. Rapidly, Bradley adjusted leadership accordingly, empowering speed while guarding catastrophic risk through selective oversight. During late campaign phases there from headquarters positions now, the broken map marked transition, when wars end through motion, rather than order under decisive leadership alone today during final collapse there. Bradley's exclamation captured history, disbelief yielding to recognition of speed's power in modern warfare across Europe then finally in command evolution realized. Doctrine emphasized synchronization, boundaries, and reporting rhythms, designed for deliberate advances where headquarters maintained visibility and authority consistently across theaters. During March 1945, that framework eroded rapidly, because battlefield collapse rewarded speed over coordination across Germany and adjoining regions decisively. Patton abandoned doctrine pragmatically, judging that permission cycles destroyed opportunity when enemies were retreating chaotically. Across shattered fronts everywhere daily, speed replaced coordination, because moving first denied German commands time to regroup or resist effectively across collapsing rearward areas completely. Traditional boundaries dissolved, as armored columns bypassed resistance without waiting for adjacent units' alignment during rapid exploitation phases everywhere onward. Coordination followed movement, not the reverse, forcing staffs to adapt behind advancing spearheads across vast distances daily during final operations. This inversion unsettled planners, trained to prevent isolation through meticulous synchronization across corps boundaries and logistics networks everywhere previously assumed. Patton accepted isolation risk, trusting momentum and enemy collapse more than paperwork assurances generated within distant headquarters structures daily elsewhere. Doctrine lagged reality, because rules written for equilibrium failed during cascading breakdowns across German command systems everywhere rapidly unfolding then. Speed exploited shock, turning disorganization into decisive advantage before defenses reformed along rivers, highways, towns, and junctions, continuously ahead onward. Logistics doctrine bent under pressure, as fuel and ammunition followed spearheads improvisationally across extended supply corridors. Daily without prior clearance. Coordination adapted afterward, aligning resources to achieved positions rather than planned ones across operational maps revised constantly during rapid advances. Command philosophy shifted implicitly, valuing initiative judgment and tempo above compliance within Third Army formations operating independently forward daily then. Speed replaced coordination as primary stabilizer, because enemies collapsed faster than confusion accumulated behind them across fragmented regions everywhere rapidly. Critics warned of disaster, citing exposed flanks and tenuous supply lines stretching across unfamiliar terrain under uncertain weather conditions. Constantly, Patton countered implicitly through results, demonstrating safety emerged from momentum itself when enemies lacked time to organize resistance effectively anywhere. Doctrine abandonment accelerated collapse, overwhelming German decision cycles already paralyzed by shortages, confusion, leadership losses, and constant allied pressure everywhere. Speed became strategy, compressing time until surrender seemed inevitable across Western Germany during late March operations everywhere swiftly unfolding then. Coordination did not vanish entirely. It reappeared locally through initiative among commanders communicating directly while moving fast forward together daily. Lateral cooperation replaced vertical control, matching speed's demands pragmatically during fluid encounters across roads, rivers, towns, bridges everywhere continually then. This evolution challenged military education, proving doctrine must yield to context during terminal phases of collapsing adversaries. Facing relentless momentum, Patton embodied that lesson, prioritizing decisive motion over theoretical perfection while exploiting fleeting opportunities emerging ahead of slower commands nearby. Speed replacing coordination marked a turning point, redefining how wars conclude when opponents fracture irreversibly under sustained pressure everywhere rapidly. Doctrine followed history afterward, learning from Patton's relentless advance across Germany, where movement ended resistance faster than caution ever could. Patton surged far ahead of expectations, extending operational reach beyond planned limits and compressing time between objectives, relentlessly. This distance strained command lines as headquarters struggled to maintain awareness across widening gaps separating authority from action daily. Each mile advanced lengthened communication chains. Radios relays couriers and liaison officers chasing a moving command that refused to pause. Patton's headquarters shifted constantly, complicating coordination while enabling uninterrupted forward momentum across collapsing enemy territory rapidly. Command lines stretched geographically and conceptually. As doctrine assumed proximity between decision-makers and oversight mechanisms, Patton inverted that relationship, placing decisions forward while oversight trailed behind, reacting to outcomes already achieved everywhere. Higher commanders worried about isolation, fearing Third Army could outrun protection, supplies and mutual support dangerously. These fears were logical, yet reality showed enemies retreating faster than Allied risks accumulated under sustained pressure. Messages traveled backward, describing success already obsolete, leaving staff scrambling to contextualize achievements within broader strategic frameworks. Patton operated beyond confirmation, trusting judgment and speed rather than waiting for reassurance from distant headquarters. The strain revealed limits of centralized control, exposing vulnerability when tempo exceeds bureaucratic capacity to respond effectively. Command lines bent under velocity, revealing elasticity yet nearing breaking points repeatedly during relentless advances. Bradley and Eisenhower monitored carefully, balancing admiration with concern as reports described astonishing distances covered. Without formal clearance, they recognized brilliance, yet understood that one interruption could magnify vulnerability catastrophically. Supply officers worked miracles, redirecting fuel convoys and ammunition columns dynamically to sustain momentum despite stretched routes. Logistical improvisation became essential, following Patton rather than guiding him as doctrine prescribed. Air support coordination grew complex, as rapidly shifting front lines confused targeting and identification procedures dangerously. Pilots relied increasingly on immediate visual cues and Patton's intuition to avoid friendly fire amid chaos. Despite strain, command lines did not snap. Because enemy collapse reduced counterpressure along exposed flanks, momentum substituted for protection, speed itself shielding advancing columns from organized resistance. Patton's forward presence mitigated risk, allowing instant adjustments when obstacles appeared unexpectedly. This responsiveness compensated for stretched oversight, preserving coherence through direct observation rather than distant instruction. The breaking point loomed constantly, yet never arrived, illustrating fragile balance between audacity and disaster. Patton rode that edge, trusting momentum to outrun consequences while command lines strained behind him. This phase demonstrated command elasticity under extreme tempo, redefining acceptable distance between leadership and oversight. Patton far ahead symbolized transition, when modern wars ending favored speed over structure entirely. Patton routinely moved beyond his own front, scouting routes personally under fire to judge terrain, enemy disposition, and momentum potential. This behavior defied expectations, placing a senior commander where bullets and uncertainty dictated reality rather than staff estimates or delayed intelligence summaries. Scouting under fire provided immediacy. Patton observed bridges intact, roads passable, and resistance absent or collapsing rapidly ahead. These observations informed instant decisions, enabling exploitation before enemy remnants could reorganize defenses or receive coherent orders anywhere nearby. His presence forward unsettled subordinates and enemies alike. Because generals rarely appeared without escort insignia or ceremony amid danger zones, Patton preferred anonymity, moving quickly to avoid snipers while absorbing unfiltered battlefield truth unavailable elsewhere reliably. This practice bypassed formal reconnaissance channels, accelerating decision cycles dramatically during fluid operations. Patton trusted eyesight instinct and experience, compressing reconnaissance planning execution into moments instead of hours or days typically required previously. Scouting exposed him to artillery's small arms and ambush risk constantly, yet he judged information gained outweighed personal danger. For Patton, ignorance was deadlier, because delay surrendered initiative during collapsing enemy resistance across central Germany rapidly. Soldiers encountering him reacted with surprise, often unaware of his identity while answering direct questions. Honestly, these exchanges revealed morale conditions, supply shortages, and tactical obstacles immediately, influencing operational choices without distortion. Being beyond his own front also allowed Patton to sense enemy psychology, noting panic, abandonment, and disorganization firsthand. Such impressions confirmed collapse, justifying continued acceleration despite warnings from higher command about overextension risks. Critics labeled this recklessness, arguing command continuity required protection rather than exposure. Patton countered through action, demonstrating that leadership visibility enhanced responsiveness, reduced friction, and maintained cohesion despite extreme tempo. Scouting under fire shortened feedback loops, aligning intent with reality continuously. Patton adjusted axes, paused advances, or redirected columns instantly, preventing costly missteps common when information lagged behind movement. This method reinforced momentum, because decisions occurred before uncertainty spread. By resolving ambiguity personally, Patton preserved confidence across formations, advancing rapidly into unfamiliar territory daily. Operating beyond his front also symbolized trust in subordinates, delegating rear coordination while he focused forward. This empowerment multiplied initiative, as commanders acted boldly, knowing leadership valued speed and judgment. Scouting embodied Patton's philosophy. Leadership meant presence at decisive points rather than distance behind paperwork. His willingness to cross boundaries physically mirrored doctrinal boundaries he ignored operationally throughout final campaigns. Ultimately, scouting under fire exemplified why Third Army outran expectations. Information gathered personally enabled velocity unattainable otherwise. A general beyond his front redefined command, proving proximity could outpace structure during enemy collapse. German resistance unraveled rapidly because speed denied commanders time to regroup shattered units or establish coherent defensive lines. Anywhere, Patton's momentum struck faster than orders traveled, transforming retreat into rout across towns, roads, and river crossings throughout collapsing regions daily. Units abandoned positions without orders, leaving equipment, fuel, and artillery intact as columns surged past stunned rear guards. The psychological shock proved decisive, convincing many defenders that resistance was futile against relentless advance already beyond expectations. Momentum compressed fear, exhaustion, and confusion into cascading collapse. As German soldiers prioritized survival over coordination under constant pressure, Patton's advance magnified this effect, exploiting hesitation before leaders could restore discipline or communication among fragmented formations anywhere. Roads clogged with retreating forces, refugees, and broken logistics convoys, unable to escape advancing armor closing from multiple directions. Momentum converted chaos into capture, as columns intercepted crossings before defenders organized effective blocking positions or demolitions successfully. Command structures failed visibly, because headquarters relocated repeatedly yet never regained situational clarity amid fast-moving threats. Patton's speed shattered command confidence, creating paralysis where initiative disappeared entirely within enemy ranks under relentless Allied pressure. Resistance pockets evaporated when bypassed, cut off psychologically and materially from meaningful support networks. Momentum rendered them irrelevant, isolating holdouts until surrender followed naturally without costly engagements or prolonged fighting later. German counterattacks lacked coordination, launched piecemeal by depleted units unable to mass effectively against moving targets. Patton exploited this weakness, defeating threats sequentially or bypassing them altogether, while continuing forward without pause. The collapse spread geographically, as news of rapid Allied penetration traveled faster than defensive instructions could compensate. Fear outran orders, ensuring that retreat cascaded beyond Patton's immediate axis of advance into adjacent sectors widely. Momentum created inevitability, convincing defenders that war's end approached regardless of individual sacrifice or local success. This perception undermined morale, accelerating surrender rates and abandonment of prepared positions throughout regions ahead. Supply shortages compounded collapse, as Patton's speed captured depots before redistribution occurred effectively. Deprived of fuel, ammunition, and food, resistance became symbolic rather than practical across wide areas. German leaders recognized danger too late, attempting withdrawals that exposed columns to air attack and interception. Momentum punished hesitation, converting orderly retreat plans into catastrophic disintegration under Allied pressure. The unraveling demonstrated how speed functions strategically, breaking enemy cohesion faster than attrition ever could. Patton's advance proved that collapse emerges when momentum denies adversaries time to think, react, or recover meaningfully. Ultimately, resistance did not collapse gradually. It fell suddenly under compounded psychological and operational shock. Momentum transformed advance into conclusion, ending organized opposition before formal surrender arrived inevitably thereafter. Allied anxiety rose steadily because success unfolded beyond authorization cycles and formal coordination frameworks designed for controlled operations. Patton's advances delivered victories without permission, forcing commanders to confront achievements they neither approved nor fully understood in real time. Headquarters admired results yet feared consequences, knowing uncoordinated success could invite disaster if conditions shifted suddenly. Every mile gained intensified unease as command authority appeared reactive rather than directive amid accelerating events across Germany. Eisenhower and Bradley faced dilemmas. Restraining momentum risked squandering opportunity, while endorsing it risked catastrophic overreach. Patton's victories created pressure, compelling endorsement after the fact rather than deliberate authorization beforehand. Coalition dynamics amplified anxiety because rapid unilateral movement complicated boundary agreements, political considerations, and post-war planning sensitivities. Success without permission unsettled allies who valued predictability and shared control within multinational command structures. Logistical planners worried quietly, counting fuel, ammunition, and vehicle wear rates stretched beyond forecasts. They supported momentum pragmatically, yet feared a sudden halt would strand formations deep within hostile territory. Air commanders struggled to align support, as targets shifted faster than briefing cycles allowed. Success strained coordination, raising friendly fire risks and complicating airspace management amid shifting front lines. Anxiety extended to flank security, where adjacent armies hurried to realign to Third Army's unexpected position. Patton's movement forced others to accelerate, spreading unease alongside momentum across the entire front. Commanders debated intervention, weighing whether restraint preserved safety or merely delayed inevitable collapse already underway. Each report confirmed success, yet amplified responsibility for outcomes not originally sanctioned. Political considerations surfaced, fearing incidents with civilians, allies, or neutral zones created by uncoordinated advances. Patton's disregard for formal clearance heightened concerns beyond purely military calculations. Despite anxiety, results spoke powerfully, undermining arguments for restraint rooted in procedure rather than battlefield reality. Success without permission challenged doctrine, revealing that control sometimes followed achievement rather than preceding it. Allied leaders adjusted reluctantly, shifting from prevention toward mitigation of risks already unfolding. They chose oversight rather than interference, hoping momentum would conclude before vulnerabilities matured dangerously. Anxiety became background noise, overshadowed by undeniable progress and collapsing enemy resistance ahead. Patton's advance forced leaders to manage success rather than command it, a reversal of expected roles. Ultimately, Allied anxiety reflected transformation, witnessing warfare where initiative outpaced hierarchy during terminal phases. Success without permission proved unsettling, yet decisive, reshaping command philosophy under extraordinary conditions. Patton's rapid advance carried inherent risk, because pushing 100 to 200 miles ahead of planned support exposed flanks, supply lines, and communication to potential disruption under unpredictable conditions. Every triumph balanced on thin ground, where miscalculation could have isolated spearheads or invited counterattack during the final weeks of the European campaign. Units stretched over long distances risked exhaustion, mechanical failure, and logistical bottlenecks, forcing improvisation constantly under pressure. Patton relied on momentum to mitigate risk, trusting speed and initiative to prevent German forces from reorganizing effectively anywhere along extended axes. Fuel shortages and ammunition depletion constantly threatened the advance, as supply convoys lagged behind surging armored columns across unfamiliar territory rapidly. Commanders behind the front monitored, Precarious lines anxiously, aware that one mishap could halt momentum catastrophically. Enemy remnants posed intermittent threats, often small but capable of striking isolated columns if timing and concentration aligned accidentally. Patton's forward presence and aggressive scouting reduced risk by providing real-time information and directing resources precisely where danger emerged unexpectedly. The human cost remained tangible because soldiers endured long marches, constant combat readiness, and limited rest while advancing under relentless operational tempo daily. Leadership depended on morale, cohesion, and trust to maintain effectiveness despite continuous physical and psychological stress. Intelligence gaps magnified exposure, as reports often lagged behind movements, leaving commanders unsure of potential ambushers or resistance pockets ahead. Patton countered this uncertainty with rapid reconnaissance, intuition, and calculated audacity, transforming risk into actionable information during fast-moving operations. Coordination with adjacent armies became challenging, as Third Army's pace outstripped neighboring units, risking gaps and misalignment that could compromise the front. High Command monitored these gaps closely, balancing the benefits of speed against structural vulnerability across the entire operational theater. Political and strategic concerns added complexity, because unplanned advances could interfere with occupation plans, agreements with allies or local civilian populations. Despite these dangers, Patton weighed strategic advantage against procedural caution, prioritizing collapse of German resistance over bureaucratic alignment consistently. Each breakthrough carried double-edged consequences, creating opportunities while magnifying potential pitfalls, making decision-making under uncertainty both exhilarating and perilous for leadership. Patton's instinctive judgment navigated these hazards, maintaining relentless forward motion while avoiding disaster amid fractured enemy defenses. Triumphs remained fragile, as the margin between success and catastrophe depended on timing, terrain, and enemy reactions simultaneously. This balance demanded constant vigilance, adaptability, and a willingness to exploit fleeting opportunities that appeared ahead of calculated plans. Ultimately, overreach was mitigated through audacity tempered by observation, rapid decision cycles, and shared risk with subordinates fully engaged in forward operations. Patton demonstrated that extreme momentum requires courage, judgment, and precise execution to convert potential disaster into decisive advantage consistently. The final weeks of war illustrated that speed and aggression amplify both reward and danger. Where triumph is inseparable from calculated risk, Patton's ability to operate on this thin ground defined his legacy as a commander who trusted initiative, presence, and audacity above conventional caution. Patton's legacy of velocity redefined modern warfare, demonstrating that speed could achieve results faster than careful planning alone. His relentless advance collapsed enemy resistance before coherent defenses could form, showing that momentum itself could dictate the pace and outcome of operations across entire theaters of war, suddenly and decisively. The Third Army's pace became legendary, exceeding expectations and illustrating how audacity transforms strategy into tangible results. Maps lagged behind reality, emphasizing that operational velocity can outstrip bureaucratic procedures while still delivering success under extreme uncertainty during critical campaign moments. Speed amplified psychological impact as German forces retreated in disarray, unable to respond effectively to a rapidly advancing opponent. They could neither anticipate nor confront reliably. Collapse occurred, not just physically but mentally, demonstrating that leadership presence combined with rapid movement shapes enemy perception as effectively as firepower. Allied command learned to adapt, balancing admiration for success with awareness of exposed risks inherent in extreme tempo operations. Patton's methods forced reconsideration of doctrine, showing that initiative and forward observation can substitute for rigid coordination when conditions favor audacious action. The human cost was undeniable, as soldiers endured exhaustion, logistical strain, and constant exposure while maintaining momentum across difficult terrain and hostile regions. Yet this shared sacrifice forged trust, cohesion, and loyalty that accelerated operations far beyond conventional expectations or institutional comfort levels. Patton's forward leadership created a template for mission command, emphasizing decision-making at the point of action and the value of first-hand assessment. By placing authority near outcomes, he reduced delay, empowered subordinates, and ensured that opportunity was seized while conditions favored action consistently. The collapse of German resistance reflected cumulative effects of speed, pressure, and surprise, proving that operational art relies as much on timing as force. Velocity disrupted enemy organization, preventing recovery and enabling exploitation of weaknesses before defenses could consolidate or retreat could be coordinated effectively. Lessons extended beyond tactical gains, influencing post-war doctrine and military thought regarding the interplay of initiative, tempo, and flexibility under uncertain conditions. Patton's success highlighted that rapid decision cycles and audacious leadership can decisively shape campaigns when combined with rigorous planning and understanding of operational limits. Historical memory celebrates velocity as a force multiplier, linking rapid movement to strategic advantage and reshaping perceptions of how modern armies achieve objectives. Patton's methods illustrated that war is won not only through attrition, but by exploiting tempo to compress enemy reaction time and magnify psychological effects simultaneously. The Third Army's advance created enduring operational legacies, showing that speed can redefine possibilities, compress conflict duration, and force adversaries into reactive positions continuously. Patton's vision demonstrated that mastery of tempo allows commanders to control not just territory but initiative, morale, and ultimately the narrative of a campaign. Legacy intertwined risk with reward, as triumph required courage, judgment, and physical endurance at all levels of command. Patton's achievements prove that decisive leadership combined with relentless speed can end conflicts efficiently, leaving lasting lessons for future generations of soldiers and commanders worldwide. Ultimately, speed became a decisive instrument, where momentum dictated victory and reshaped strategic thinking, proving that boldness and velocity can conclude wars faster than caution or doctrine alone. Patton's campaigns remain a testament to the transformative power of audacity, foresight, and operational brilliance under conditions of uncertainty and collapse.